Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Rhys. I'm a data analyst working and living in London, and here on this channel we cover everything from productivity, health, wealth, and happiness. This week, I wanted to talk about my experience of using the MX keys and the Mx Master 3 for the last 6 months. Quick TLDR, I love them. I think they're fantastic, and I wouldn't hesitate to recommend them to anyone who was looking for a premium set of peripherals to use at home or when we go back to the office. If you'd like to learn more, stick around. This video has been broken down into 4 different sections and have been timestamped for your convenience, so just jump around to whatever you feel is the most valuable. Section 1 will cover why I decided to pull the trigger on the MX series peripherals. Section 2, I'm going to go over the features, the good and the bad. Section 3, I'm going to talk about their use within my productive day. And Section 4, I'm just going to wrap everything up and kind of give you an overview of everything we've covered. Section 1, why I decided to buy the MX series mouse and keyboard. When I transitioned to working from home full time in March of last year, all I had with me at home was an old mechanical keyboard and a mouse that I primarily use for gaming. When I work in the office, I try to have as few distractions as possible on my desk. So with that in mind, wires tend to take up quite a lot of valuable sort of desk real estate, which is then added to when you're adding things like your journal, your pens, your ruler, etc. After a few months of working from home, I decided that I wanted to upgrade my desk space a little bit, try and get myself an external webcam and obviously some wireless peripherals, just so I could get the wires off my desk completely. I decided to take to YouTube to try and get some inspiration for my sort of home desk setup. I really wanted something that would help me boost my productivity and also appeal to my sort of minimalist sense of aesthetic. With that in mind, I had a set of requirements that I wanted my peripherals to meet. Number 1, the keyboard needed to be full size, so definitely not squashed together and needed to include the numpad on the side. I use that every single day with my job, so it's super important to get that. Number 2, I wanted some backlighting on my keyboard, just so that in the winter months, it's less strain in my eyes when it's darker outside. I can just have a little lamp to my side and also have the keys illuminated, which helps with my eyesight. Number 3, I wanted the mouse to be ergonomic. I've used quite a few different sort of smaller mice, working in the office and at home as well, and to be honest, it ends up leaving me with a bit of an RSI condition. My wrist in particular feels a lot of strain after long periods of work. Now, one of the common threads that I noticed when I was looking at these YouTube videos was that the MX Master series was popping up quite a lot, particularly in 2020 when these new versions were released. Instantly, there were several features that caught my eye. The ability to sync them between 3 different devices is incredible, and that looked like it would be super valuable for me at home. The fact that they included both Mac and Windows key printings, so you know exactly what you're pressing at all times. The media keys for Spotify, including volume, start, stop, skip track, etc. And also being able to control the dimming of the keyboard. The gyro scroll wheel on the Mx Master 3 looked like it was going to be super helpful, particularly when you're scrolling through large Excel documents. Being able to just flick and go through a few thousand rows, incredibly helpful. A horizontal scroll wheel. Now, I haven't seen that many mice with that feature included, so that's pretty unique to the Mx Master 3 as far as I can tell. And honestly, that looked like it would be super valuable. I quite liked that Logitech included some software as well, allowing you to customize both of the peripherals to meet your needs. And lastly, it had that beautiful minimalist design aesthetic that I was looking for. So I decided that even though they're quite expensive, I'll pull the trigger on them and see how I get on. And this really is just to talk about my experience with them over the last 6 months. Section 2, the features, pros and cons. When these devices arrived, I was instantly impressed with the sheer weight of them and also the build quality that Logitech put into them. You can really tell that these are flagship premium products, and the build quality and materials used really reflect that. Honestly, I'd compare them to the wireless Apple keyboard. If you've had the pleasure of experiencing them, they're an absolute joy to use. Okay, so let's start with what I really liked about both of these products. Let's start with the Mx Master keys. Firstly, the construction was wonderful. It's reassuringly heavy, it's made of metal, the keys are plastic, but not in a cheap way. I was pleasantly surprised by the keys when typing. Honestly, it really felt like the Apple wireless keyboard in many ways, and I'll definitely compare the two. I liked that it needed to only be recharged once every 3 weeks or so. Now, Logitech boasts that you can go 5 months without needing to charge, however, that's if you decided not to have the backlighting on. When you do need to charge it, it takes about an hour, if less. And to be honest, considering I'm using it for most of the day on a daily basis, I was quite impressed with the amount of charge that it has. The individual backlit keys are fantastic as well, and being able to control the brightness of them is a brilliant feature. But one of the things that I like the best is when you wave your hand over it, that's when the backlighting turns on. So as default, it's off until you need to use it. Finally, it's super easy to turn on and off. There's a switch on the back of the keyboard, so if you're away for a weekend, for example, you can just flick that off, not a problem at all. Next, let's talk about the MX Master 3. First of all, I really liked how ergonomic it was. It felt really comfortable in my hand, and it's reassuringly big, so my hand wraps around it and sits very comfortably on every aspect of the mouse. I think one of the biggest features that I really liked about the MX Master 3 was the horizontal scrolling wheel. As I've mentioned previously, I use Excel for a lot of my work, as well as doing data analysis. So being able to scroll horizontally across different sort of worksheets is invaluable, and it saves me having to move my hand around on the mouse constantly. The gyro wheel, as I mentioned previously, is also a game changer. Just being able to flick that and go down several thousand rows, brilliant time saver. There's also a little hidden button in the thumb, which allows you to open the launchpad and just select what apps you have open. Similar to alt-tabbing, I suppose. The forward and back buttons are still there, which is a common feature admittedly, but you know, good to have them there. As with the MX keys, you're able to configure the buttons depending on what you need. So that can even be down to an app level as well. So if you needed the buttons to do something different in Word as you do in Excel, as you do in Premiere, then that's totally doable. And finally, the charge time on this thing is nuts. I think I probably charge it once every 3 months, if that, and you know, that's invaluable. Finally, a couple of features that are useful across both. A little LED shines up in red when either of them are low on battery, and you get a little notification on screen as well, which is super helpful. Both of them are charged using USB-C, which is super helpful because you get a cable with each. So you can keep one cable at home, one cable in your work bag. It's just a bit of a time saver. The bad. Honestly, I don't really have that many negative points about either of these devices. They've been an absolute pleasure to use in the last 6 months, but the ones that I suggest next, I hope Logitech will consider in the next iteration. So with the MX keys, the only downside really is that you can't raise or lower the tilt. It's got a permanent tilt on it due to the way that the feet are constructed, and you can't really change that. There may be some third-party ways of fixing that, I'm not 100% sure, and honestly, I find the tilt actually pretty comfortable, but some people may not. And the other thing is, I've got a really weird issue with the MX keys, where after using on a MacBook and then going to Windows, for some reason on my work laptop, the Alt and the Window keys have swapped around, and I can't seem to change it back. I don't know if that's just me or if other people have experienced it, but I can't get it to go back at the moment, so worth noting. It's not really a problem per se, because you get used to that pretty quick, but a weird one for sure. Section 3, their use in productivity. As I alluded to previously, there are a bunch of features on both of these devices that have really helped me with my productivity at work. They've actually turned some of the tasks that I need to do from being super tedious into, yeah, a lot less painful, let's put it that way. A lot of that has to be said because of the MX Master 3, admittedly, because the horizontal scroll wheel and the gyro wheel are just game-changing. They're absolutely fantastic. I love that these devices can be connected to several devices at the same time. So currently, with the Bluetooth dongles that you receive with them, I've got one plugged into my work laptop, one plugged into my gaming computer, and then I connect a third device, my iPad, to the keyboard via Bluetooth. The benefit of doing it this way, of course, is that I don't really need to faff around with wires. So at the end of the day, I wouldn't have to go behind my laptop and unplug them and then plug them into my work PC or anything like that. I can just press a button, away we go. And finally, thanks to the iPad's latest update in 2020, I can now use both of these devices on the iPad and make it super productive. And actually what I found is that I'm getting a lot of my sort of script writing, my journaling, that kind of stuff done on the iPad now, because I won't really be as distracted by things like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram or getting instant messages or something like that. It's pretty much become my productivity workhorse now. Part 4, conclusions. I'm actually so impressed with how useful I have found these devices day to day over the last 6 months. I thought that honestly I would be using them during the work week and then putting them away on the weekends to use my mechanical keyboard and mouse for gaming and things like that. But to be honest, because I don't need to faff around with wires and go underneath the desk constantly, I'm just sticking with these, and just jumping between the profiles is super easy and quick. And the thing is, when I return to London, honestly, I'm going to bring these with me. They're coming with me to the office because they're just such a pleasure to use. And the tactile feeling of the keyboard is so much better than the keyboard that I have at work. However, I need to clarify before anyone accuses me of fanboying over Logitech that the price of these devices is pretty high. Honestly, you're looking at about £250 for both of these devices, and for someone like a student, that's super hard to justify. So my advice would be, if you feel like you would actually benefit from these products in terms of productivity, in terms of making your desk be more aesthetic to yourself, then definitely go ahead with them. I wouldn't hesitate to recommend either of these devices. There are a ton of reasonably priced alternatives on the market as well. So if you're looking for something a little cheaper, perhaps take a look at my other video, How a Tidy Desk Can Lead to Productivity. I've linked it up here, and I've included a couple of examples that I found on Amazon. If you're interested in picking up either of these devices, I've included some affiliate links in the below. It won't charge you anything extra, but the channel gets a bit of a kickback, which really helps with our growth. Finally, if you have any comments or questions for me, drop them in the comment section below. I'm more than happy to chat to you and engage about my experience with these over the last 6 months. But that's everything from me. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like. And if you'd like to see more from me, click that subscribe button. I upload new videos every Monday at 9 AM GMT. But until next time, ta-ra.